Hello, this is Brett with Surging Ahead, your home for news on EVs, renewable energy, and autonomy. Today we're going to be looking at Joe Biden's recent infrastructure plan and looking at its effect on EVs and on green/renewable energy. So recently I read through that plan because I was curious exactly what all it entailed and to see kind of what details he laid out. After reading through it, I don't feel it's super thorough yet, so it'll be interesting to see what develops out of it and what kind of information comes forward long term. But we'll just go ahead and go over the basics of it and yeah, go from there. So starting off, the first point which I found which talked about the areas of interest I have here were the electrification of trains. So he talks about he wants to invest in reliable passenger and freight rail service, and goes on to say the nation's rail networks have the potential to offer safe, reliable, efficient, and climate-friendly alternatives for moving people and freight. However, unlike highways and transit, rail lacks a multi-year funding stream to address deferred maintenance, enhance existing corridors, and build new lines in high-potential locations. There are currently projects just waiting to be funded that will give millions more Americans reliable and fast intercity train service. President Biden is calling on Congress to invest $80 billion to address Amtrak's repair backlog, modernize the high-traffic Northeast Corridor, improve existing corridors, and connect new city pairs, and enhance grant and loan programs that support passenger and freight rail safety, efficiency, and electrification. So yeah, there's a lot of words there, and not a lot of specificity in what he's looking for, but I would like to see. I mean, I live in the Midwest here, and there's a lot of train tracks that go through here, and all of that freight that moves is powered on giant diesel engines spewing dirty air all over the place. I mean, these things run on metal tracks. It's not like you'd have to put a ton of money in batteries to get these things electrified. So, I think it's a clear candidate for electrification and would make a large impact on our overall carbon impact. So, I think this is a good idea. I'd like to see some investment in electrification of trains and infrastructure along that matter. But yeah, I'd like to see a lot more detail on what he's actually proposing here. I know 80 billion sounds like a lot, but it doesn't sound like anywhere near enough to go fully electric on this. So clearly he's not being that ambitious. I'd just like to see what all he's proposing in it. So anyway, I do think that's a good first step. He then goes on to talk about investing in EVs. So here he talks about he wants to create jobs, electrifying vehicles. The U.S. market share of plug-in EV sales is only 1/3 the size of the Chinese EV market. Just a quick interjection there. I think a large part of that is because Chinese EVs are super cheap. They just have a lot of very inexpensive alternatives to the standard gas car. They don't go super far on the cheap ones, but I mean, I don't know. It seems to work in that market. I think you'll have some issues getting people to invest in vehicles that don't take them on long trips here in America. All the same, I think it's good. So keep reading here. He's proposing a $174 billion investment to win the EV market. His plan will enable automakers to spur domestic supply chains from raw materials to parts, retool factories to compete globally, and support American workers to make batteries and EVs. It will give consumers point-of-sale rebates and tax incentives to buy American-made EVs while ensuring that these vehicles are affordable for all families and manufactured by workers with good jobs. It will establish grant and incentive programs for state and local governments and the private sector to build a national network of 500,000 EV charges by 2030 while promoting strong labor and training and installation standards. So on that, 500,000 EV chargers by 2030. I mean, I know you need a lot for transport around the world, for long trips, but it seems like a lot of chargers. I don't know that we actually need that many for day to day. Most people will just charge in their homes. So I don't know. It's good to see investment in there, but I'm not sure where those numbers come from and what that actually represents as far as density of chargers nationwide. I will say that we do need a lot more chargers. The Tesla charging network is the most robust American charging network at this point. And even in that, if you're going off of the major roadways, like if I take interstates everywhere, it's great. But if I want to go on the highway system in the middle of the country and go to areas offside to the interstate, I really have to pay attention to where I'm going, because you got to be able to make it back to a supercharger, and those just don't exist in the middle of the country. So there are large swaths of the area that are literally not covered by any level 3 chargers. So it would be great to see some good fast charging at state and national parks and stuff like that. So you could go to areas that are off that beaten path. Additionally, it'd also be nice if some of these chargers they placed in rest areas on the interstates. You don't need to fill all the way up, but if every time I had to stop to go to the bathroom, I could get a little bit of charge in my car, that'd be great. So while I don't know where the number comes from, it is good to think about building a national charging network. Just hope Teslas will be able to use it. We really need that CCS here, I think, because I'm going to guess that will be the standard. He does talk about installation standards, which I would also like to see be port standards, and get that passed on to more vehicles. So continuing on, his plan will replace 50,000 diesel transit vehicles and electrify at least 20% of our yellow school bus fleet through a Clean Buses for Kids program at the EPA, and which will support the Department of Energy. That's great. Buses are great places for EVs. Having kids trapped on those, spewing out a bunch of diesel, is not it's not healthy. And with the type of transportation those buses do, it would be a great place to invest in electric vehicles. So I applaud that. I think that's great. Finally, he mentions that he wants to use those tools to electrify the federal fleet, including the United States Postal Service. He doesn't say how much of that he wants to do, but Postal Service is also a great candidate for EVs. So, investing a lot more in this than in the railways. But I think there are a lot of good steps there. So, yeah, let's do more for EVs. Create jobs in modernizing power generation. So here he wants to create more jobs driving clean electricity. So he's proposing a 10-year extension and phase down of extended direct pay investment tax credit and production tax credit for clean energy generation and storage. These credits will be paired with strong labor standards to ensure the jobs created are good quality jobs with a free and fair choice to join a union and bargain collectively. President Biden's plan will mobilize private investment to modernize our power sector. It will also support state, local, and tribal governments choosing to accelerate this modernization through complementary policies like clean energy, block grants that can be used to support clean energy, worker employment, and environmental justice. And it will use the federal government's incredible purchase power to drive clean energy deployment across the market by purchasing 24/7 clean power for federal buildings to ensure that we are fully taking advantage of the opportunity in modernizing our power sector presents. President Biden will establish an energy efficiency and clean energy standards aimed at cutting electric bills and electricity production, increasing competition in the market, incentivizing more efficient use of existing infrastructure, and continuing to leverage the carbon pollution-free energy provided by existing sources like nuclear and hydropower. All of this will be done while ensuring these facilities meet robust and rigorous standards for worker environment safety, and all while moving to 100% carbon pollution-free power by 2035. So a lot of buzzwords in that. I think the overall direction is great. I'd like a little more substance to what he's saying there. The goal of moving towards 100% carbon polluting free power by 2035, I think is great. But yeah, it's real vague on that one. So it'll be interesting to see kind of some of the details around what he would like to see on that. But yeah, I don't know. Goes on to say, make us a leader in climate science. Establish the United States as a leader in climate science, innovation, and R&D. The president is calling on Congress to invest $35 billion in the full range of solutions needed to achieve technology breakthroughs that address climate crisis and position America as the global leader in clean energy technology and clean energy jobs. This includes launching ARPA-C to develop new methods for reducing emissions and building climate resilience, as well as expanding across-the-board funding for climate research. In addition to a $5 billion increase in funding for other climate-focused research, his plan will invest $15 billion in demonstration projects for climate R&D priorities, including utility-scale energy storage, carbon capture, storage, hydrogen, advanced nuclear, rare earth element separation, floating offshore wind, biofuel, bioproducts, quantum computing, and electric vehicles, as well as strengthening U.S. technological leadership in these areas and global markets. So that's cool. $35 billion investment in developing new technologies to help with climate change. I think that's cool. Jumpstart clean energy manufacturing through federal procurement. The federal government spends more than $500 billion buying goods and services each year. As a result, it has the ability to be a first mover in markets. This incredible purchasing power can be used to drive innovation in clean energy production, as well as to support high-quality jobs. To meet the president's goals of achieving net zero emissions by 2050, the United States will need more electric vehicles, charging ports, and electric heat pumps for residential heating and commercial buildings. The president is calling on Congress to enable the manufacturing of these cars, ports, pumps, and clean materials, as well as critical technologies like advanced nuclear reactors and fuel here at home through a $46 billion investment in federal buying power, creating a good paying jobs and reinvigorating local economies, especially in rural areas. Basically aiming to spend a whole lot of money on these types of products and hoping that spending that money will spur on companies to invest in those areas. Not as direct as some of the other things he's talking about in here, but with all of the things he is talking about, if you signal to the markets that, hey, we're going to be spending our money on EVs and on wind power and other things like that, that'll certainly make those industries invest more to be able to meet the needs. So that makes some sense. And the final piece here that I felt related to my fields of interest here are eliminating tax preferences for fossil fuel. So it talks about eliminating tax preferences for fossil fuels and make sure polluting industries pay for environmental cleanup. The current tax code includes billions of dollars in subsidies, loopholes, and special foreign tax credits for the fossil fuel industry. As part of the president's commitment to put the country on the path to net zero emissions by 2050, his tax reform proposal will eliminate all these special preferences. The president is also proposing to restore payments from polluters into the Superfund trust fund so that polluting industries help fairly cover the cost of cleanups. So kind of vague there on what he's actually planning to do, but I do think one of the best ways to encourage industries to spend more money with green energy is to remove the subsidies on fossil fuels. If gas costs twice as much at the pump, people are going to be less likely to buy their next gas car. If it goes for companies, it goes for everything. When things cost more, you look at other options. So, he doesn't explicitly say carbon tax, but, well, a carbon tax would go a long way to helping pay for all of the stuff he's proposing here. So, yeah, that's what I pulled out of the information he had in his report. Overall, it touches on a lot of areas. And honestly, the green parts of it are not an insubstantial amount of money, but it's not everything in his plan. Large portions of his plan are focused on highways and modernizing homes and government buildings and other things like that, which does have an indirect effect on clean energy and the environment, but doesn't necessarily have that direct impact on investing in renewable energy and stuff like that. So overall, there's a lot of good stuff here. Like I said, I'd still like to see a lot more detail. I'd like him to spell it out far more clearly on what he's looking to do with it. I'd like to see, I guess, more change faster. A lot of his goals for accomplishing these things are going to be well outside his tenure in office, which means it's likely that they'll never actually truly see the light of day. But overall, it's good to see some kind of investment in this. I think our future is reliant upon it. If it wasn't, I wouldn't have started a YouTube channel on it, I guess, right? So yeah, I like a lot of what's in here. It's a very good start. I can't wait to see more details on it. Thanks for watching. I hope you found this video useful. This has been Brett with Surging Ahead. Have a great afternoon.